Ancient goat and sheep paths that are all over the area here. It says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. There's a valley that I just mentioned that's off to the right. This valley is known as the valley of the shadow of death. The reason why is the type of valley that it is. You have this abundant water source going through, meaning in the ancient world, everybody flocks to it. So this path that we're driving on is actually not the ancient path. It would have been along the water. But because we're on the outskirts of town, this is where all the robbers were. And they waited by the water sources. They'd hide. So when the ancient traveler would come by, if he was by himself, he would definitely get robbed or killed or something. So it's known as the Valley of the Shadow of Death. But there's also another reason. Because of the sun in this area, as the sun moves over, most of the day the sun is on one side of the mountain. So one side of the mountain is always scorched. Even in the winter time, there's nothing that really grows on it. But the other side is very plush green, very nice. All the plants, they even have trees on them actually. Everything grows very well there because you have water source and you have the perfect amount of sun on it throughout the day. But the other side gets most of the sun, so nothing grows. So you have this beautiful contrast of green mountain on one side, dead mountain on the other side. So it's known as the Valley of the Shadow of Death because of that shadow cast on it. So even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. I mentioned the dates. One other thing that grows in this area very well are incense. Frankincense, myrrh, all these things. This is the area actually further down the mountain that they grow. The hotter it is, the better it is. In fact, these plants actually go dormant in the winter time. When it reaches about 110 degrees is when they start producing fruit. And it's the fruit that you make this oil from. And frankincense and myrrh are specifically oils that were used to anoint kings. Okay? But there's different, sorry, I didn't mean kings, prophets. There's different oils for different things. There's also another thing that grows down in the Jordan Valley that has been reintroduced to the land of Israel for the first time in 1400 years. And this is called opobalsamum. Opobalsamum is one of the things that made King Herod wealthier than Rome itself. Remember we mentioned that? Yes? No? Yeah, okay. So this thing is by far the most lucrative. Without this industry, the port is the last thing that he builds that makes him wealthier. But without this industry, there's nothing really for him to ship. I mean, there is, but this stuff is big money makers, opobalsamum, because you can do two things. You can use the sap, which is made into the incense, which is what you burn in every single temple on earth, meaning the one in Jerusalem and every other temple along the road. And guys, there are many of them. And you could take the fruit, the berry itself, crush it, and make the most desired perfume in the Roman world out of it. It was very, very popular. So the plant is called opobalsamum. In the Bible, you know it as the balm of Gilead. Okay? So the balm of Gilead grew naturally in this area. In fact, it grows in the Jezreel Valley, it grows in Gilead, and it grows here. And Gedi and Jericho are the two places that are known for the balm of Gilead. Okay, so King Herod owned Jericho. That was where he built his palace, one of his palaces. He had this plant there, and he had dates. Those are the big exports from that area. Big, big money. So the balm of Gilead, you guys remember where it says in the Bible the three magi bring frankincense, myrrh, and gold? Gold makes no sense in the context of frankincense and myrrh. Plus, what's a baby going to do with gold, right? Especially when you're about to flee the country. There's a group of people called the Temple Institute in Jerusalem, and a couple farming experts that think gold is the nickname for the balm of Gilead. The reason why is the essential oil that comes from the balm of Gilead costs more than gold itself, and the color of it is gold when you put it in a clear container, and it's the anointing oil of the kings. Only kings can be anointed with this oil, and it has the highest frequency for healing than any other oil on earth. So if you think of it in the context of frankincense, myrrh, and balm of Gilead, these combinations are supposedly the combination that Messiah will be anointed with. So these guys bring these three oils specifically to this baby. What they're saying is, this is Messiah. This is the baby that will redeem us all. Okay? So if you think of it that way, that kind of makes sense. I believe that that's what it's talking about, not a brick of gold, because it makes no sense. But these guys going halfway across the world, or wherever they're coming from, to bring the anointing oils of a king and Messiah, the King of Kings, that makes sense to me. Okay, and its nickname was called liquid gold. Anyway, why did I say that? Oh, Psalm 23, yeah. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. When you live your life through, I would call it this blessed perspective, knowing that God is always with you. God is your provider. He's provided your needs before you even know that you need anything. You are a blessed man. The anointing oils, the anointings of the kings, of the prophets, all this is the stuff that God will anoint you with, because you are dedicated to Him. Anointing is dedicating someone to something. The word is Mashiach or Mashuach, meaning anointed. One's Messiah, God's Messiah. That's all it means, is God's anointed, or anointed to His purposes. So you are anointed to His purposes, meaning this is the guy that God is going to use for His kingdom. Well, I think we can all agree King David was used for God's purposes. So anyway, we're gonna play some music in just a minute here. אתה רוצה להתחיל עכשיו?